"Do not get in the car!" Black Maid yelled at the Mafia boss. What he found shocked. A rainy night, a quiet hotel maid spots a tiny wire under a black sedan and shouts at a ruthless Mafia boss to stop. He pauses, then the car explodes. She saves his life, and now she's pulled into his locked world. Guards at every door, a price on her head, and a secret past that lets her read bombs like books. The extraordinary twist? The killer device used codes from inside his own family. He stakes Rocket higher when her little brother is taken, and a powerful prosecutor plays both sides of the law. A traitor smiles in silk. The city holds its breath. An obsession turns into protection with a cost. When love and loyalty collide under gunmetal skies, who will she trust when the next car door opens? The midnight rain drums against the pavement outside the Aurelius Hotel, each drop catching the golden glow of Manhattan's luxury landmark. Delivery trucks rumble past as valets whistle for cars, their practiced efficiency a carefully orchestrated dance of wealth and service. Amara Cole pushes her linen cart through the service entrance, her movements precise and purposeful. The rough cotton of her uniform scratches against her skin as she works, a constant reminder of the role she's chosen: invisible, unremarkable, safe. Her dark eyes scan her surroundings with the sharp awareness that kept her alive in combat zones. The black sedan catches her attention immediately. It sits idle at the curb, sleek and armored. But something's off. Her nostrils flare at the sweet chemical scent, coolant where there shouldn't be any. Her gaze traces the vehicle's lines, catching the thin wire beneath the rear bumper, barely visible in the wet night. The license plate sits a millimeter too high on the left side, telling a story of recent tampering. Through the lobby's glass walls, she spots Luca Vitale. He moves with the fluid grace of a predator, his charcoal suit a perfect fit for his tall frame. Two men flank him, their attention rotating through practiced surveillance patterns. They're good, but they've missed what she's seen. Amara's heart pounds against her ribs as she makes a choice. "Do not get in the car," she calls out, her voice cutting through the ambient noise. Luca stops. One heartbeat of stillness. The explosion tears through the night with a deafening roar. Glass rains down as the hotel's canopy shatters, catching city lights like falling stars. Luca's body covers hers instinctively, the wool of his suit rough against her cheek as they hit the ground. The heat wave rolls over them, carrying the acrid stench of burning metal and rubber. "Nico!" someone shouts. Amara sees the driver sprawled on the asphalt, blood darkening his shirt. Her medical training kicks in, but before she can move, strong hands grip her arms. Phones appear like fireflies in the darkness, recording the chaos. Distant sirens grow louder, their wail mixing with the screams of startled guests. Steam hisses from the wreckage as rain hits hot metal. "Let me check him," Amara demands, gesturing toward Nico. "I'm a combat medic." Luca's dark eyes lock onto her face, assessing. "Report," he commands, his voice steady despite the violence surrounding them. Sweet coolant smell, wrong for this model. Wire under the rear bumper. License plate recently removed and replaced. Alignment was off. Amara delivers the facts in clipped tones, muscle memory from military briefings. "I need to call my brother Jaden. Tell him I'm safe." The sirens grow closer. Luca's men tighten their formation around him as guests stream from the hotel, phones still recording. "Move her," Luca orders, indicating a service corridor. "Secure area only." "I don't owe you anything," Amara snaps, but allows herself to be guided toward the door. Her mind races through scenarios, calculating risks and exits. "I saw something wrong and spoke up. That's all." "And saved lives," Luca responds, his tone measured, but intense. "You'll be protected until we understand what happened." They reach the private elevator, its polished brass doors reflecting their tense group. Two guards enter with them, their weapons visible under tailored jackets. The air tastes metallic, thick with explosive residue and unspoken threats. Below, the lobby dissolves into chaos. A broken side mirror spins across the marble floor, its path random and jarring against the precise luxury of the Aurelius. Amara watches the doors slide closed, sealing her in with men who deal in violence and power. Her fingers twitch, missing the familiar weight of a medical kit, something useful she could hold on to. The elevator rises smoothly, but Amara's pulse refuses to slow. She catalogs details with practiced precision. The guards' positions, the camera in the corner, the way Luca stands slightly between her and his men, protective or possessive. She's not sure which is worse. Her thoughts turn to Jaden, probably sprawled on their couch with his laptop, oblivious to the explosion that just changed everything. She needs to warn him, tell him to be careful, but her phone feels like a lead weight in her pocket. She knows better than to reach for it now. The elevator continues its silent ascent through the building's core. Amara forces her breathing to remain steady, using the techniques that got her through firefights and mass casualties. She's survived worse than this, she reminds herself. But in those situations, she'd had a clear mission, a chain of command, rules of engagement. Here, in this enclosed space, with Manhattan's most dangerous sun, the rules are unknown. Outside, the rain continues to fall on the glittering chaos below. Emergency lights strobe against wet pavement as first responders arrive. Hotel guests cluster under nearby awnings, their phones still raised, capturing aftermath footage that will flood social media within minutes. The scent of burning rubber and explosives mingles, with the petrichor of rain on concrete, creating an apocalyptic perfume that seeps through the building's ventilation system. The elevator doors open to a private foyer where art pieces worth more than Amara's yearly salary line walls of Italian marble. 2 more guards appear, these with visible earpieces, as Luca guides her through double doors into a suite that could swallow her entire apartment. Rafe, Luca's head of security, approaches with a handheld scanner. "Standard procedure," he says, his tone professional. "Please hold still." Amara raises her arms, letting him sweep the device over her uniform. Her shoulders stay rigid as he checks for weapons or recording devices, his movements efficient and impersonal. A guard offers her water. She shakes her head, perching on the edge of a leather sofa that faces floor-to-ceiling windows. The city spreads out below, emergency lights painting the wet streets in strobes of red and blue. "My phone," she says, meeting Luca's gaze. "I need to call my brother." "In a moment." Luca loosens his tie, studying her. "First, tell me exactly what you saw." Amara's hands rest in her lap, her left one trembling slightly before she presses it flat against her thigh. The wire was gauge 8, copper core, visible under the rear bumper. Oil sheen on the pavement didn't match normal engine leakage patterns. Rear shocks showed compression inconsistent with vehicle weight distribution. Luca moves closer, his voice dropping. "That tremor, combat memory?" She doesn't answer, but her jaw tightens. "Your phone," Luca says, holding it out. "Speaker only." Amara dials and Jaden answers on the second ring. "Hey sis, you coming home soon?" "I'm safe," she says, each word measured. "Going to be late. Lock the door, Jay. Put the chair bar across it." "What's wrong?" Alarm edges into his voice. "Nothing. Just do it. I'll explain later." She ends the call before he can ask more questions. Luca takes the phone, passing it to Rafe. "How did you know to look for those signs?" "I've seen worse." Amara's tone closes the subject. Rafe's own phone buzzes. He reads the message, his expression darkening. "Boss, forensics preliminary. Detonator signatures match codes from the East Warehouse breach. 3 months ago." The muscle in Luca's jaw flexes. He turns away, speaking quietly into his phone. "Get Nico to Dr. Marcus. Private clinic. Full security detail." A knock at the door makes everyone tense. Luca nods to Rafe, who admits a sharp-dressed woman carrying a leather briefcase. She confers with Luca in low tones, then steps into the hallway where uniformed officers wait. "My lawyer will handle the police fight," Luca explains. "You won't appear in any official reports. For your protection." "My protection," Amara repeats flatly. "Or your control." "Both." His honesty surprises her. "Someone tried to kill me tonight. They used codes stolen from my organization. Until we find them, you're safer here." "I have work in 6 hours. Already handled. You're on paid leave." He gestures to the suite's second bedroom. "Stay tonight. Security teams will sweep the streets, check your building. Once we're certain there's no connection to you, you're free to go." Amara stands, squaring her shoulders. Terms, no handcuffs, no locked doors. No one touches me without permission. Agreed. Luca's response comes too quickly, like he expected this negotiation. But guards remain at all exits, non-negotiable. She follows a maid who appears with fresh clothes and toiletries to a bedroom bigger than her apartment's main room. The bathroom gleams with marble and chrome, the shower large enough for 4 people. She changes into borrowed silk pajamas that probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget. Standing at the window, Amara watches ambulances and police cars circle the hotel's entrance. Glass still glitters on wet pavement. The explosion plays behind her eyes, the flash, the heat, the familiar surge of adrenaline she thought she'd left behind. Through the wall, she hears Luca's voice, low and controlled. "If the codes are ours, the traitor is ours." Dawn bleeds into the horizon, painting the city's edges in shades of gray. Amara presses her forehead against the cool glass, wondering how many of her careful plans this night has destroyed. She'd chosen this job for its predictability, its distance from violence. Now she's back in a world of men who carry weapons under designer suits, where loyalty and betrayal dance on knife edges. Her hand trembles again, and she clenches it into a fist. Below, crime scene techs photograph the blast radius, marking pieces of the sedan that tried to become Luca's coffin. She recognizes the methodical pattern of their movement, the same way she once photographed IED sites, cataloging fragments that could identify bomb makers. The suite settles into pre-dawn quiet. Guards murmur in the hallway. Ice clinks in glasses as Luca and Rafe discuss security protocols. A helicopter drifts past, its searchlight sweeping adjacent rooftops. Amara knows she should sleep, but her body hums with remembered vigilance, scanning for threats even here in this fortress of luxury. She thinks of Jaden, hopefully asleep behind their locked door, unaware that his sister's past has reached through years of careful distance to drag them back into danger. She'd promised to keep him safe, to build them a normal life. Now she stands in a mobster's guest room, wearing his family's silk, while somewhere in the city, a bomber plans their next move. Dawn creeps over Manhattan as Amara follows the scent of coffee through Luca's pristine kitchen. Everything gleams. Stainless steel, marble counters, copper pans hanging in perfect alignment. No stray magnets on the refrigerator, no mail scattered on counters. It's beautiful, but sterile, like a showroom rather than a home. Luca stands at the espresso machine, his jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled to reveal strong forearms. He works the controls with practiced precision, the machine hissing as it forces steam through finely ground beans. "Eggs?" he asks without turning. "Please." Amara's voice sounds rough from lack of sleep. As he moves to the refrigerator, she notices a framed photo on the wall, a distinguished older man with Luca's sharp jawline and penetrating eyes, though his hold none of the warmth she's glimpsed in his son's. The man radiates authority, even in still image. Luca sets a perfect cappuccino before her, foam decorated with a leaf pattern. The Financial Times rustles as he unfolds it one-handed while whisking eggs. "You need to stay here," he says after several minutes of silence. "In the penthouse." "I'm not your hostage." Amara wraps her hands around the warm cup. "I have a job to return to." Without speaking, Luca slides his phone across the counter. On screen is a dark web bounty listing, grainy security footage from last night showing her face as she warned him. The caption reads, "Witness," with a 6-figure reward. Her stomach clenches. "How long?" "A few days, until we identify the threat." He plates the eggs, adding fresh herbs. "Your brother's being watched. He's safe." "I need to call him, twice daily." She meets his gaze. "Non-negotiable." "Agreed." Luca nods to Rafe, who materializes from the corner. "Arrange for Ms. Cole's essentials to be collected from her apartment." The private elevator to the penthouse is lined with mirrors. Amara catalogs security features, cameras in each corner, reinforced doors, keycard access. Her eyes track sightlines, exit routes, defensive positions. She catches Luca watching her assessment with quiet interest. In the penthouse living room, Rafe delivers his briefing with military efficiency. The detonator codes match a set signed out 6 weeks ago by Matteo Vitale, training purposes according to the log. Amara notices how Luca's posture shifts at the name, a minute tensing of shoulders, quickly controlled. His half-brother, the consigliere. "Verify," is all he says, voice neutral. The guest suite is larger than her entire apartment, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a vertigo-inducing view of the city. Amara explores methodically, noting the slight bulge of a wall safe behind an abstract painting, testing the weight of decorative vases that could become weapons, discovering a medical kit in the bathroom, stocked with surgical supplies and prescription antibiotics. "Let me see your hand," Luca says from the doorway. She'd almost forgotten the cut from the explosion debris, a thin slice across her palm that stings when she flexes her fingers. He leads her to the kitchen island, where light streams through windows. His touch is clinical as he examines the wound, but his fingers are warm against her skin. The medical kit he retrieves matches the one in her bathroom. "This needs stitches," he says, already preparing a local anesthetic. "You know how to suture." A slight smile touches his mouth. "I have many skills." His technique is precise, small, even stitches that will barely scar. Amara watches his face as he works, seeing the focus in his eyes, the gentle way he cradles her hand despite his reputation for violence. When he finishes, she releases a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Luca's gaze snaps to hers at the sound, something vulnerable flickering across his features before he masks it. For a moment, they're just two people connected by touch and trust, the roles of captor and witness forgotten. The moment breaks when his phone buzzes. He steps away to take the call, leaving Amara to flex her bandaged hand and wonder at the lingering warmth of his skin on hers. Night falls over the city, painting the sky in purples and oranges. From her borrowed bed, Amara listens to distant sirens weaving through the streets below. She thinks of Jaden in their small apartment, probably eating cereal and playing video games to distract himself from worry. Their daily call had been brief. She couldn't risk saying too much with others listening. On the penthouse terrace, Luca stands alone against the darkening sky. The city spreads before him like a glittering carpet, thousands of lives moving in patterns he's sworn to protect and profit from. He pulls up a photo on his phone, the same stern-faced man from the kitchen, his father, whose death elevated Luca to power and whose shadow still looms over every decision. "I won't die your way," he whispers to the image as a police helicopter sweeps past, rotors throbbing against the glass like approaching thunder. In the distance, church bells mark the hour. Amara turns away from the window, remembering other nights spent listening for danger. Behind her sealed door, guards patrol the hallway. Somewhere in the city, a killer watches and waits. And 19 floors below, Luca's words hang in the air between father and son, between past and future, between duty and desire. The morning sun filters through bulletproof glass as Amara paces the penthouse living room, phone pressed to her ear. "Did you take the bus route I texted?" "Yeah, sis. Made both shifts." Jaden's voice carries the forced lightness of someone trying to sound braver than they feel. "The diner was dead, but tips were decent at the garage." "Good. Keep your head down, okay? No shortcuts through alleys." "I'm not stupid." A pause. "When are you coming home?" Her throat tightens. "Soon, I promise. Just stay safe." In the penthouse gym, rubber mats cushion her feet as Rafe demonstrates defensive stances. His movements are precise, military sharp. Panic codes are 4 digits, he explains, adjusting her elbow position. 2899 signals immediate extraction, 1473 means hostile presence. Memorize them. Amara mirrors his movements, muscle memory from old training returning. "Safe room access?" "Biometric scan here." He indicates a barely visible panel by the master bedroom. "Secondary, access through the wine cellar, 10 minutes of air filtration, 30 days of supplies." They practice basic throws, blocks, escape holds. Sweat beads on her forehead as she works through each sequence. The familiar burn in her muscles almost feels normal, almost lets her forget why she needs these skills again. The midday sun hangs high when Rafe's phone chirps. His expression darkens as he reads the message. "What?" Amara asks, though part of her already knows. "Hit team targeted the service wing an hour ago." His voice is controlled. 2 staff members down, Maria from housekeeping, Tommy from maintenance. The names hit like physical blows. Maria with her photos of grandchildren. Tommy, who fixed the break room microwave last week, dead because someone was looking for her. Her phone buzzes. A text from Jenny at the front desk. "You okay? Why cops asking ABTEE?" Before she can respond, Rafe's secure tablet lights up with an alert. Her photo again, clearer this time, with 3 words that make her blood run cold. "Find the maid." Guilt and rage war in her chest. She'd tried to save lives, and now people were dead because of it. Her hands shake as she grabs her bag. "I need to leave. They're killing innocent people to get to me. Stop!" Luca's voice is soft, dangerous, the kind of quiet that precedes violence. He stands in the doorway, suit jacket gone, sleeves rolled to show forearms marked with old scars. "The dead will be honored, the responsible will be erased." "I can't have more blood on my hands." She moves toward the door. "If you step out that door, they will take you by sundown." No threat in his tone, just cold certainty. Reality crashes down. There is no escape route that doesn't run through him and his empire. She's caught in a web of power and violence, and her only choice is how to survive it. "Fine." She straightens her spine. "But I have conditions. I stay, but I'm not your prisoner. I want freedom within the penthouse. Full information when I'm the target, and my consent matters for everything." Luca studies her for a long moment, then nods. "Agreed." He pulls a burner phone from his pocket, already programmed. "Direct line to me and Rafe. Use it." Hours pass, night falls over the city, clouds finally clearing after days of rain. Amara stands on the terrace, hands gripping the railing, as she forces slow breaths through the phantom smell of explosives that won't leave her nose. Footsteps behind her. Luca, keeping a careful distance. Not touching, but close enough she feels his presence like a heat signature. "I won't put you in a cage," he says quietly. She doesn't turn. Below them, the city sparkles with millions of lights, each one a life untouched by the darkness they inhabit. Stars emerge overhead, distant and cold, while traffic moves in endless rivers of red and white through the streets far below. Maria had grandchildren. Tommy coached Little League. Their deaths weigh on her shoulders like stones, even as she knows staying hidden is the only way to prevent more casualties. The wind carries the faint wail of sirens from somewhere in the concrete maze below. Luca remains still behind her, a silent guardian or elegant jailer. She's not sure which. Maybe both. His promise hangs in the air between them. No cage, but also no escape. She flexes her stitched hand, remembering his gentle touch, at odds with the violence she knows he's capable of. The terrace offers a perfect view of the hotel's destroyed entrance, where it all began, now wrapped in construction tarps that flutter like ghosts in the night breeze. Cleanup crews work under floodlights, sweeping away the last traces of shattered glass and scorched metal. But no amount of cleaning can erase what happened, what's still happening. The city continues its endless pulse of life and death below them, indifferent to the power plays and vendettas that shape its shadows. Amara breathes in the cool night air, letting it wash away the lingering scent of destruction, while the lights of passing aircraft blink like falling stars overhead. Morning light streamed through the penthouse windows as Amara typed her daily text to Jaden. "Breakfast, take vitamins, bus route we discussed." She paused, then added their new agreed-upon safe word, baritone. Simple enough to slip into conversation, unusual enough to stand out if needed. Rafe waited by the elevator, tablet in hand. "Ready for orientation." She nodded, following him through the penthouse's west wing. The orientation started with basic security protocols, panic buttons, emergency exits, communication channels. But as Rafe demonstrated the safe room's keypad sequence, he noticed how Amara had already positioned herself. Back to the wall, eyes on both exits, mentally mapping distances. "Military?" he asked quietly. "Something like that." She memorized the 6-digit code without writing it down. In the kitchen, Luca stood by the espresso machine, suit jacket draped over a chair. The morning sun caught the sharp angles of his face as he poured 3 cups. "Join me?" Amara accepted the coffee, noting how he kept the island between them, respecting boundaries even in casual moments. He asked about her hometown, her education, threading questions through small talk like silk through needles. "Nursing school," she admitted, sipping the rich espresso. "For a while." "Why'd you stop?" She adjusted her watch, but not before Luca caught the glimpse of scarred tissue beneath the band. Her silence was answer enough. Rafe spread photos across the granite countertop, forensic shots of the blast scene. Twisted metal, scorched concrete, precise measurements marked in yellow evidence tags. Amara tried to look away, to be nothing, nobody. But her eyes caught details she couldn't ignore. The capacitor. The words escaped before she could stop them. "It's cheap. Military surplus. Probably Afghan war leftovers. And look at the solder points. Amateur work." Someone who learned fast and dirty, not professional training. Her fingers traced the blast pattern in the photos. This isn't syndicate work. This is contractor level. Someone who picked up skills in private security or military support companies. The kind that hire cheap and train fast. Luca watched her, those dark eyes missing nothing. "You saved my life, he said softly. "You don't have to save the rest of it alone." She met his gaze, weighing truth against safety. Before she could respond, Rafe called them to review security footage. The afternoon stretched into evening as they tested camera angles and blind spots. Amara pointed out subtle weaknesses, a shadow that could hide movement, a reflection that gave away guard positions. Rafe took notes without comment, but his respect showed in how carefully he logged her observations. Later, as sunset painted the windows gold, Luca noticed a loose thread on Amara's sleeve. "Allow me?" He held up small scissors from his desk. She extended her arm, watching as he trimmed the thread with the same steady precision he'd used to stitch her palm. His fingers brushed her wrist, barely there. The touch sparked something electric between them. They were close now, too close. His breath warmed her skin. She could count his eyelashes, see the faint scar above his lip. For a moment, the air seemed to crystallize around them. Amara pulled back first. Not because she didn't want— God help her, she wanted. But not like this, not when choice was tangled with survival. Luca stepped away smoothly, respecting the unspoken boundary. He'd promised to wait for her to ask, and he was a man of his word, even when it cost him. Night settled over the city like a velvet blanket. Amara lay in bed, listening to the urban symphony below. Distant sirens, taxi horns, the eternal pulse of New York after dark. The sheets were silk, the mattress cloud soft, but sleep eluded her. Secrets were weapons in this world. They could protect or destroy. She'd kept hers close for years, wrapped in layers of careful silence. But watching Luca all day, how he moved, how he thought, how he balanced power with restraint, she made a decision. Tomorrow she would tell him a little more, not everything, just enough to test if truth between them could be a bridge instead of a blade, because secrets cut both ways, and she was tired of bleeding. The city's heartbeat tapped against the windows, a rhythm like waiting. In the darkness, Amara traced the scar under her watch, remembering other nights, other choices. The penthouse hummed with hidden security, cameras, motion sensors, armed men in tactical gear. All of it designed to keep danger out, to keep her safe. But safety was relative in this new world she'd stumbled into. The real question was trust. How much to give, how much to hold back. She'd seen the way Luca looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. The weight of his attention, heavy with something more than mere protection. Outside, a helicopter's spotlight swept across neighboring buildings, throwing shadows that danced across her ceiling. Somewhere in the city, Jaden was hopefully asleep in their apartment, safe behind locks and chair bars. She checked her phone one last time. No distress signals, no coded warnings. The silk sheets whispered as she shifted, her body remembering the ghost of Luca's touch on her wrist. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, its own revelations. For now, she lay in this gilded cage that wasn't quite a cage, listening to the city breathe, counting the hours until dawn. The underground garage hummed with fluorescent lights and the idle purr of 3 black SUVs. Exhaust fumes mingled with the sharp scent of concrete and motor oil. Luca adjusted his cuffs, scanning the perimeter before nodding to Rafe. Smaller convoy tonight, he said. 3 vehicles rotating positions. Less predictable. Amara settled into the middle SUV's back seat, Rafe beside her, an empty space waiting for Luca's briefcase. The leather seats were cool against her skin. Something tickled her nose, a metallic tang that didn't belong. Burnt oil with an electric edge, like ozone before a storm. Her pulse quickened. Wrong. It was wrong. A white van screamed around the corner, side door already sliding open. Black-clad figures poured out, weapons raised. Down! Right! 2! The warning burst from Amara's throat, muscle memory taking over. Rafe's arm swept her flat as bullets punched into concrete, showering them with dust and fragments. Through the chaos, she saw Nico struggling at the first vehicle, fresh stitches limiting his movement. The trunk beside her was slightly ajar. She'd noticed the ballistic shield during the pre-trip check, filed it away like she did everything that might save a life. Amara popped the latch fully open, dragged the shield across the floor. Cover! Her voice carried the snap of command. She slid the protection over Nico's exposed legs as rounds sparked off the metal. Shooter high left, she called. Second pillar, moving right. The positions flowed like she was reading a familiar script, like she'd never left that other life behind. Luca moved like liquid violence. He caught the nearest attacker's wrist, twisted until bone cracked, stripped the weapon away in one fluid motion. His next strikes were precise, lethal. The garage echoed with short bursts of gunfire, then silence. They piled into the SUV, adrenaline making hands shake and breath come quick. Luca's fingers found Amara's face, checking for injuries, thumbs gentle on her cheekbones. Their breathing fell into sync. Inhale, exhale, alive. He leaned closer, she tilted up, the air electric between them. At the last moment, Luca pulled back, his voice rough gravel. Not because you're afraid, because you want it. Amara nodded, understanding. Fear made poor choices. Whatever this was between them needed to come from desire, not desperation. The ride back to the penthouse passed in tense silence. Security swept every floor twice before clearing them to enter. Amara's hand still trembled slightly, muscle memory fading slowly. Later, she found a manila folder on the floor near Luca's office. Must have slipped from his briefcase during the chaos. She picked it up, pushed the door open to return it, and froze. A framed newspaper clipping hung on the wall. Desert sun bleached the edges of the photo. A medevac helicopter settling into swirling dust. Medical personnel crouched beneath the rotors. The memory slammed into her like a physical blow, heat shimming off sand, canvas walls snapping in hot wind, the iron copper reek of blood mixed with antiseptic. Her patient, just a kid really, reaching for water, the pressure plate she spotted too late, the blast that... Amara blinked back to the present, her chest tight. Not now, not yet. She couldn't give him that piece of herself, not when it was still raw enough to bleed. She retreated to her bathroom, ran the water until it scalded. Soap and scrubbing couldn't wash away the phantom smell of cordite, couldn't erase the muscle memory of triage and trauma. Her whispered apologies to old ghosts mixed with the sound of running water. Outside the door, Luca stood silent guard, listening to her fight her demons alone. He wouldn't intrude. She needed space to wrestle with whatever shadows the garage had awakened. But he stayed, a steady presence, until the water stopped and her breathing evened out. The city sparkled beyond the windows, oblivious to the violence below. In the garage, cleaning crews were already erasing evidence of the firefight. Reports would be filed, security protocols adjusted, leads followed. But in this moment, there was only the quiet hum of the penthouse air system, the distant wail of sirens, and two people carefully navigating the space between trust and truth. Amara's hands were red from scrubbing, but clean. Luca's shoulder pressed against the doorframe, offering silent support without invasion. The memory of their almost kiss lingered like smoke, promising, but not demanding. When it happened, and they both knew now it would happen, it would be because they chose it, not because adrenaline and fear pushed them together. Through the bathroom door, Amara heard Luca shift his weight, heard his quiet exhale. He was giving her time, giving her control. She pressed her forehead against the cool mirror, gathering herself. The woman reflected back looked tired but steady. Someone who had survived worse nights than this? Her tactical instincts had surfaced in the garage like muscle memory, but they weren't who she was now. She was building something new here, something that balanced strength with choice. The ghosts could wait. Tonight was about surviving, about breathing, about choosing what parts of herself to share and what to keep hidden until the time was right. Morning light spilled across Luca's kitchen counter as Amara wrapped her hands around a steaming coffee mug. The weight of unspoken truths pressed against her chest. She watched Luca, reading market reports, his movements precise and controlled, and made her decision. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. Luca set down his paper, giving her his full attention. The kitchen fell silent except for the soft hum of the refrigerator. "I served in the Army National Guard." The words came easier than she expected. "Combat medic. After basic training, I cross-trained with EOD because we kept losing people to IE deaths." Her fingers traced the rim of her mug. "There was this kid, barely 18. Pressure plate got him while I was trying to reach him. I spotted it too late." Luca remained still, letting her speak at her own pace. "After that, I couldn't." She swallowed hard. "I left the program. Dropped out of nursing school. Everything felt too loud, too messy. But cleaning rooms?" A small smile touched her lips. "That was quiet, honest. No one dies if you miss a spot vacuuming." "You saved my life with those skills," Luca said softly. "Yeah, well," she shrugged. "Old habits." Luca was quiet for a long moment, then spoke in a voice she hadn't heard before. "My father died in a car accident last year. Brake lines were cut. The vehicle went off a cliff." His jaw tightened. "Family can be murder when you share a surname." "Matteo?" she asked carefully. "I trusted him because he was blood, because I was afraid not to." His laugh was bitter. "Some protection that offered." They sat in understanding silence, the morning light growing stronger. Later, they visited Nico at a private medical facility. Amara checked his bandages with practiced hands, explaining proper wound care to the nurse. Nico's eyes held respect when she finished. In the facility's parking garage, Amara outlined a new convoy strategy to Luca's security team. "Predictable patterns get people killed," she explained, drawing diagrams. "Vary your routes, your timing, your formation. Make yourselves harder targets." Luca implemented her suggestions personally, reorganizing the vehicles himself. His men watched with raised eyebrows as he followed her lead without question. She caught his small smile of approval as she corrected a driver's blind spot positioning. The day passed in a blur of security briefings and careful planning. By nightfall, they were back in the penthouse, the city lights creating a private galaxy beyond the windows. Luca touched her hand in the elevator. "Stay with me tonight?" Amara met his gaze. "Yes." In his bedroom, every move was deliberate, every boundary discussed. "May I?" he asked, fingers hovering over her shirt buttons. Yes. Her breath caught as he slowly undressed her, each touch reverent. Tell me what you want, he murmured against her neck. She guided his hands where she needed them. Like this. He was lethal to the world, but achingly gentle with her, asking permission for each new touch, each escalation. She matched his care with her own, strength, choosing him with every conscious response. Good, he whispered, watching her face. Perfect, she breathed, arching into him. They moved together with growing urgency, but never rushing, never pushing past agreed limits. His hands steadied her hips, her fingers traced the scars on his shoulders. When pleasure crested, it was like falling into trust itself. After, they lay tangled in his sheets, sweat cooling on their skin. He traced patterns on her back while she listened to his heartbeat slow. Stay, he murmured into her hair. I'm here, she answered, already drifting toward sleep. She woke before dawn, the city still dark beyond the windows. Luca's arm was heavy across her waist, his breathing deep and even. The man who terrified half of Manhattan slept peacefully beside her, and somehow she felt safer than she had in years. Reaching for her phone on the nightstand, she typed a quick message to Jaden, a heart emoji followed by a sunrise. He'd understand she'd call a little later than usual. Setting the phone down, she settled back into Luca's warmth. In the soft darkness, she thought about choices, about how strength sometimes meant letting yourself be gentle, about how the quiet, honest work of building trust could heal old wounds, about how the right person could make even the broken pieces fit together in new ways. Luca stirred slightly, pulling her closer in his sleep. She smiled and closed her eyes, letting herself drift in this moment of peace. The city would wake soon enough with its demands and dangers, but right now, in this pre-dawn quiet, she was exactly where she chose to be. The bedroom was their sanctuary, holding their whispered confessions and careful touches. Outside these walls were threats and complications, but here they had built something true, something that belonged only to them. Dawn was just beginning to lighten the sky, painting the room in soft grays and blues. Amara watched the colors change, feeling Luca's steady breathing against her back. For the first time in years, she didn't feel the need to check exits or plan escape routes. She was safe, she was chosen, she was home. Sunlight streamed through the penthouse windows as Amara curled up on the leather sofa, phone pressed to her ear. Sorry, I'm late calling. Ooh, the new rich boss keeping you busy, Jaden's teasing voice carried through the speaker. Must be nice up in that fancy tower. Don't start, she warned, but couldn't help smiling. How's work? Same old garage. Boss wants me to learn the computer system next week. Pride crept into his voice. Oh, I can bring your spare charger when I swing by. The one from your apartment. That'd be great, thanks. Their conversation drifted to comfortable siblings banter until Rafe burst through the door, face tight with urgency. Amara. What's wrong? Jaden's been arrested. Gun possession charge. He's already being processed downtown. The phone slipped from her fingers. What? Luca appeared in the doorway, already on his phone. Getting my lawyer there now. Bondsman's on standby. His voice was controlled, but his eyes blazed with calculation. Everything happened in a blur. The sleek town car, whisking her and Luca's attorney to the precinct. The fluorescent-lit waiting room, her leg bouncing as she watched the clock tick past each excruciating minute. Then suddenly Jaden was walking out, looking small in his work clothes, hands shaking slightly. Some kind of error with the paperwork, the desk sergeant mumbled, not meeting anyone's eyes. It was too easy, too neat. In the car, Luca's lawyer explained how the public defender assigned to Jaden came from Morton and Price, a firm with carefully hidden connections to Matteo Vitale's network of shell companies. That night, in the relative safety of Amara's guest suite, Jaden broke down. I'm so sorry, sis. I swear I didn't know who they were. Start from the beginning, she said quietly. This guy in an expensive suit started coming to the garage maybe 2 months ago. Said he'd pay me to pass messages to one of the bellhops at your hotel. Jaden's voice cracked. Just little notes, you know. Seemed harmless. I needed the money for that certification course. Amara closed her eyes. And now, these weird texts keep coming. Numbers I don't recognize. Instructions. He pulled out his phone, showed her the string of cryptic messages. I can't make them stop. Luca materialized in the doorway like a shadow. He studied the text, jaw tight. You'll stay at one of my properties. Secure building, round-the-clock protection. Like a prison, Jaden muttered. Like staying alive, Luca corrected. He turned to Amara. You'll have keys to the penthouse, a dedicated room. I need to keep you close until this is contained. She wanted to argue, to rage against the tightening noose of protection that felt like control. But Jaden was here, breathing, alive. Sometimes survival meant choosing the lesser cage. Okay, she said quietly. Within hours, Jaden was settled into a luxurious apartment with bulletproof windows and armed guards disguised as maintenance staff. Amara helped him unpack the few belongings Rafe's team had collected from their walk-up, trying to make the sterile space feel more like home. It's just temporary, she promised, arranging his favorite coffee mug on the counter. Yeah. He attempted a smile that didn't reach his eyes. At least the Wi-Fi's faster here. Back in the penthouse, Amara watched Luca stand at the window, phone in hand, thumb hovering over Matteo's name in his recent calls. The city sparkled beyond the glass like nothing was wrong, like her world hadn't tilted on its axis again. Luca's finger moved away from the call button. Whatever confrontation was coming, it wouldn't be tonight. In her room, Amara sat rigid on the edge of the bed, phone face down beside her, her fingers twisted in the expensive sheets as fury and fear warred in her chest. Never again, she whispered, the words like a prayer and a promise. They'll never use him again. The city hummed beyond her window, indifferent to her vow. Somewhere out there, Matteo was moving pieces on a board she couldn't fully see. But she had survived worse games than this. She had protected Jaden through harder times, her hands slowly unclenched from the sheets. She might be in a gilded cage, but she wasn't powerless. She had Luca's resources, Rafe's tactical knowledge, and her own hard-won skills. Most importantly, she had the fierce, unshakable love that had kept Jaden and her going through every previous storm. The night pressed against the windows, full of threats and possibilities. But in this moment, Jaden was safe in a fortress of Luca's making. She was protected by a man who killed for business but touched her with reverence. And somewhere in this twisted game, there was a path to freedom. She just had to be patient enough to find it, strong enough to walk it. She looked at her phone, still silent on the bedspread. No more messages from unknown numbers would reach Jaden. No more suited men with careful smiles would draw him into their web. Whatever came next, she would make sure of that. The sheets were cool under her fingers as she finally released them, smoothing away the wrinkles left by her grip. Above the city, in this tower of glass and steel, she made her choice again. To stay, to fight, to protect. Not because she was trapped, but because sometimes the only way out was through. Sunlight streamed through the safe house windows as Amara stood at the stove, flipping French toast while Jaden's playlist filled the kitchen with R&B. The sweet scent of cinnamon and vanilla wrapped around them like a familiar blanket from easier mornings. You're burning the edges again, Jaden teased, reaching for the perfectly golden piece she'd just plated. Huh? Touch that before it's done and lose a finger, she warned, wielding her spatula. The normalcy of their banter felt like a gift. Some things never change, Luca said from the doorway, his presence shifting the air. He wore a charcoal suit that screamed business, but his eyes were soft watching them. Amara plated the last pieces, trying not to think about the meeting ahead. Eat first, business later. They shared breakfast around the granite island, Jaden demolishing his portion while telling stories about their childhood cooking disasters. For a moment, it felt almost normal, if you ignored the armed guards visible through the windows and the weight of what was coming. The warehouse meeting was set for noon in a neglected corner of the city. Concrete walls rose like ancient ruins around them as Luca's convoy pulled in, precise formation practiced to Amara's specifications. She counted 6 rival crew vehicles already parked, noted the strategic placement of their men. Stay close to Rafe, Luca murmured as they exited. His hand brushed her lower back. Subtle, possessive. The rival crew's leader, Marco Rossi, waited inside with the arrogant ease of someone used to being feared. His eyes tracked Amara like she was merchandise. Quite the prize you're keeping, Vitale, Rossi drawled. My offer to take her off your hands still stands. The temperature in the room plummeted. Luca's expression didn't change, but something deadly crawled behind his eyes. She's not property, he said, voice winter cold. Choose your next words carefully. Rossi's smirk widened. Come now, we both know everything has a price. The first shot came from the left, exactly where Amara had noticed a shadow move. Rafe, 9 o'clock, she shouted. What followed was beautiful and terrifying. Luca moved like a violence given form, each motion precise as surgery. No wasted energy, no cruel flourishes, just deadly efficiency as he neutralized threats. 3 men down before they could pivot, another disarmed with a brutal twist that ended in a clean shot. Amara pressed her back to a concrete pillar, watching him work. This was the full force of what he was, all that carefully contained power unleashed in her defense. Every lethal motion was anchored to keeping her safe. When silence fell, Rossi lay groaning with a shattered kneecap while his crew either fled or bled. Luca straightened his cuffs, as calm as if he'd just finished paperwork. "You didn't have to," Amara started. "Yes, I did," his voice was granite. "Anyone who threatens you learns exactly one lesson." Later, in the penthouse's evening quiet, she found words for the weight in her chest. "I won't be the reason you burn this city down." Luca's fingers traced her jaw. "I'll burn only what tries to touch you. No more, no less. We need boundaries," she said. "Rules for this, us." "Name them." "I keep my independence, my voice, my right to say no. Always." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I protect what's mine, but I don't cage it." What followed was a slow exploration of trust. Every touch asked for, every boundary respected. His hands mapped her skin like discovering holy ground, reverent and careful. She learned the sounds he made when she took control, the way his breath hitched when she whispered permission. They moved together in the silk, soft, dark, negotiating pleasure like a treaty between equals. His strength turned gentle for her caution melted under his care. When release claimed them, it felt like falling into trust. After, he tended to her with careful attention. Water, soft cloths, quiet words of praise. She watched him move through these rituals of aftercare and felt something crack open in her chest. Now, in the small hours, she traced the ridges of his knuckles where they rested on her hip. His breathing had finally eased into true sleep, face peaceful in ways she rarely saw. These same hands that had dealt death now held her like she was precious. She was probably in love with him. The thought should terrify her. This man she'd once sworn to, a void whose world was built on violence and power. Instead, it felt like solving a puzzle she hadn't known she was working on. Her phone buzzed softly. She reached for it, careful not to wake him. "Sleep," she texted Jaden. "Guards outside your door. It's okay." She placed the phone face up on the nightstand, screen glowing faintly in the dark. Luca stirred, drawing her closer without waking. She settled into his warmth, letting herself be held by hands that killed to keep her safe. The city hummed beyond their windows, full of threats and rivals and complicated power games. But here, in this moment, she was exactly where she chose to be. Protected but not possessed. Cherished but not caged. Luca's breathing remained deep and even, his guard finally lowered in sleep. She matched her inhales to his, feeling the steady thrum of his heart against her back. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The Don who killed for business but loved with reverence, and the woman who saved his life and then chose to share it. His fingers twitched against her skin, seeking even in sleep. She covered his hand with hers, threading their fingers together. The city's dangers could wait until morning. For now, there was just this: trust given and received, boundaries honored, love growing in the spaces between power and protection. The notification lit up both their phones simultaneously. Amara's stomach dropped as she opened the link, grainy security footage showing her in what looked like secret meetings with Matteo in the hotel's parking garage. The clever editing made innocent moments look damning. "What is this?" Luca's voice carried that dangerous quiet she'd learned to recognize. Before she could explain, his phone buzzed with an incoming video call. Matteo's smooth face filled the screen, all aristocratic angles and practiced charm. "Brother, I trust you've seen the interesting footage making rounds." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Your little savior has been quite helpful with convoy information." Amara's denial died in her throat as Rafe burst through the door, face tight with urgency. "Sir, the safe house. Jaden's gone, guards down, some kind of gas, professional job." They knew exactly where to hit. The temperature in the room plummeted. Luca's shoulders went rigid as marble. "Verify everything," he commanded Rafe, then to Amara, softer but no less final. "You'll stay here until we understand what's happening." That word, verify, cut deeper than any blade. After everything they'd shared, he still defaulted to suspicion. "The footage is fake," she insisted, hands steady despite her racing heart. "Matteo approached me once, weeks ago, tried to hand me an envelope as thanks for saving you. I refused it, that's all." You told me you'd seen worse, Luca said quietly. What else haven't you told me? She recognized the weight crushing him, family betrayal, warping everything he thought he knew. But she wouldn't be caged, not even by fear. For Jaden. I haven't lied to you, she said. Not once. While they argued, she was already planning. They'd mapped the camera blind spots during training, including one in the north stairwell. She just needed 30 seconds of distraction. It came when Rafe returned with preliminary reports. While both men studied security feeds, she slipped out, quick and quiet as smoke. The note she left was simple. I will trade myself for Jaden. Don't follow. The meeting point is where your father's car went over. She knew the city's hiding places, its secret arteries and forgotten corners. The subway took her to Queens, where she switched to a bus, then caught a rideshare under a fake name. Each move calculated to blur her trail. In the penthouse, Luca stood at the window, note crumpling in his shaking hands. His phone buzzed, a location ping from Matteo showing an old shipyard by the East River. Outside, sirens wailed their endless song, while gulls wheeled and cried over the darkening water. The cameras had caught her exit, of course. She'd been too well trained by Rafe to miss them all. But she moved with purpose, no panic in her steps. Each security feed showed the same thing, a woman who knew exactly what she was doing. In the operations room, Rafe replayed the footage of her departure. She's good, Basta, he admitted. Used every trick we taught her about staying off-grid. Track the rideshare companies, Luca ordered, voice tight. Every pickup within 20 blocks in the last hour. Already running it, but sir, Rafe hesitated. She knows how we think. She'll have planned for that. The gas used at the safe house had been military grade, the same kind Amara would have encountered in her medical training. The timing of the guards' rotation, the blind spots in the security, all of it suggested inside knowledge. But Luca remembered her face when she first saw his father's photo, the way she tensed at certain sounds, how she washed her hands too long after violence. Those weren't the reactions of someone playing a role. His phone kept buzzing with messages from Matteo, each one more smug than the last. Security footage from other angles started flooding in, showing more apparent meetings between Amara and his brother. Sir, Rafe said quietly, the timing of these leaks, it's too perfect. Like they were waiting for the right moment. Luca stared at the note again, at her steady handwriting. The meeting location, where his father died, that had to mean something. Amara knew details about that night that only family should know. In the city below, traffic flowed like blood through concrete arteries. Somewhere out there, Amara was moving through those streams, carrying her military training and her medic's knowledge like armor. She'd saved his life once without hesitation. Now she was trying to save her brother's. The sun set over Manhattan, painting the buildings in sheets of copper and gold. In the growing dark, boats dotted the East River, like floating stars, and the old shipyards cast long shadows across the water. Gulls wheeled and dove, their cries mixing with distant sirens in an urban symphony of warning. Matteo sent another message. A photo of Jaden, unconscious but apparently unharmed, with a timestamp from 5 minutes ago. The background showed rusted shipping containers and oil-stained concrete. Luca's world had shifted on its axis twice now. First when Amara saved him from the bomb, and again when she disappeared into the city rather than be caged by suspicion. He'd promised not to trap her, and she'd proven she couldn't be held against her will anyway. The night pressed against the windows like black velvet. Somewhere in that darkness, Amara was moving with purpose, while Jaden lay helpless in Matteo's grip. The city held them all in its sprawling embrace, predators and prey, protectors and protected, all dancing to the same urban rhythm of survival. The sodium lights cast sickly shadows across the shipyard as Amara moved between stacked containers, each step measured and precise. River wind carried the metallic bite of rust and salt, whipping her jacket against her sides. Above, clouds scudded past a waning moon, nature's own surveillance camera tracking her progress. She pulled out the burner phone she'd acquired 3 stops ago, fingers steady as she typed a message to Assistant U.S. Attorney Dana Keene. The federal prosecutor's number had been easy to find once Amara knew where to look. Official channels were often the leakiest. I have what you want. EOD expertise, convoy patterns, security protocols. Meet at the North loading dock. Bring my brother unharmed or no deal. The response came quickly. 30 minutes. Come alone. Amara pocketed the phone and began her sweep, moving in expanding circles from the meeting point. Her trained eye caught the telltale signs of recent activity. Scuffed concrete, displaced gravel, the faint impression of boot treads in oil-stained puddles. More concerning were the professional touches. Hair-thin wires at ankle height, pressure plates badly concealed under loose boards on the catwalk. Amateur work trying to look professional. Someone wanted credit for their cleverness. Meanwhile, across the city, Luca stood in his command center, surrounded by screens showing security footage. His hands were pressed flat against the desk, shoulders rigid as he watched the unedited parking garage video for the third time. There was Matteo, cornering Amara by the service elevator, the envelope appearing from his jacket. Her immediate step back, hands raised in clear rejection. No audio, but her expression said everything: disgust, wariness, final refusal. "Timestamps," Luca commanded, voice tight. Rafe pulled up parallel feeds. The Armory access logs show Matteo's codes used at 2:47 p.m. that day. This footage is from 2:50 p.m. He went straight from stealing the codes to attempting to buy her silence. He knew she'd refuse, Luca said, softly. He wanted her to, made her the perfect scapegoat. The realization settled like lead in his stomach. He'd let old fears cloud his judgment, nearly lost her to family ghosts. Now she was out there alone, walking into Matteo's trap because he'd failed to trust her. Luca straightened, decision made. Call everyone. No lights, no sirens. I want a silent perimeter on that shipyard in 20 minutes. Back at the yard, Amara finished her circuit, mentally mapping the booby traps. The setup suggested someone with military contractor experience, but too much ego. They'd signed their work with unnecessary flourishes, leaving patterns she could exploit. She found a sheltered spot behind a rusted crane and began disarming calculations. The pressure plates were Pakistani knockoffs, touchy but predictable. The tripwires used standard military-grade components, all of it designed more for show than effectiveness. Like the bomber who'd rigged Luca's car. Footsteps echoed across concrete. Amara melted deeper into shadow as Dana Keene approached, flanked by 4 tactical officers. They had Jaden between them, hands cuffed but otherwise unharmed. His eyes darted around, searching for her. Ms. Cole, Keene called out, voice carrying. I believe we have something to discuss. Amara stepped into view, keeping her movements calm and measured. Let him go first. After you provide proof of your value. Keene's smile was professionally bland. We have significant interest in your technical expertise. A new set of footsteps approached from the opposite direction. Matteo emerged from between containers, 2 guards trailing him. His smile was anything but professional. Quite a gathering, he said, spreading his hands. Federal authority, family drama, and the maid who thinks she can play both sides. He looked around the yard like a proud architect surveying his design. Though I notice my dear brother isn't here to defend his little bird. This was never about Luca, Keene said sharply. We have larger concerns than your family squabbles. Of course, Matteo agreed, still smiling. You want to dismantle an empire. I just want to watch it burn. Amara kept her expression neutral, even as her mind raced. The players were assembling exactly as she'd predicted. Federal ambition, family betrayal, and her caught in the middle. But she had one advantage they'd overlooked. She knew how to read a battlefield. The sodium lights flickered once, twice. Then darkness crashed down like a wave, plunging the yard into perfect black. Matteo's laugh rang out, high and delighted. Oh, someone's being dramatic, he called into the dark. Coming to save the damsel brother? Amara pressed her mic closer, voice barely a whisper. Luca, if you're here, come on, my count. She paused, throat tight. I don't know if you can forgive me. I don't know if you needed to, but I trust you'll understand why. The darkness pressed close, filled with the sound of weapons being drawn, and boots shifting on concrete. Somewhere above, metal creaked in the wind. The river lapped at the pilings below, marking time like a metronome as everyone waited for the next move. In the command vehicle parked 3 blocks away, Rafe watched thermal imaging feeds showing positions of all players on the board. He kept his voice low in his comm. Sir, we have clean shots on 7 hostiles, but the pressure plates are still hot. Luca stood at the yard's edge, gun drawn, eyes adjusting to the manufactured night. His world had narrowed to this moment, brother against brother, love against legacy, trust against betrayal. Each heartbeat marked a choice between what he was raised to be and what Amara helped him become. The wind carried her whisper to him again. On my count. Through sheets of rain, Amara's hands moved with surgical precision over the tripwire. The thin metal loop she'd fashioned from a broken zipper glinted dully as she worked it around the trigger mechanism. Her fingers remained steady, despite the cold water running down her forearms and dripping from her elbows. The warehouse district loomed around them, a maze of shadows and rusted metal, the perfect trap for those who didn't know its secrets. Her breath came slow and measured, each exhale carrying a whispered count, a ritual that kept her centered in chaos. 1. The darkness rippled as Luca and his men moved like liquid shadows between shipping containers. Their footsteps made no sound on the wet concrete, each step calculated and deliberate. Water beaded on their tactical gear, rolling off in rivulets that merged with puddles below. Years of violence had taught them to move like ghosts, but tonight they followed a different kind of expertise. The steady count of a woman who'd learned to disarm death in desert heat, who'd watched friends become memories when the counting stopped too soon. 2. The rain drummed against metal, masking their approach. Droplets ricocheted off container roofs in a staccato symphony that concealed their movements. Through her tactical earpiece, Amara heard the subtle clicks of weapons being readied, safeties disengaging with muted precision. Luca's team spread out in a practiced formation, closing the net around Mateo's position, their movements synchronized by years of shared danger. 3. Assistant U.S. Attorney Keene's voice cut through the darkness, sharp and commanding. Light them up! Amara's hand shot out, yanking the emergency release on a nearby loading chain. Metal links crashed down in a curtain just as muzzle flashes lit up the night, turning raindrops into brief, shimmering stars. Bullets sparked against the improvised barrier, sending tiny fragments of metal flying as she sprinted toward Jaden, counting her brother's ragged breaths over the gunfire. His face was pale in the sporadic light, eyes wide with a terror she recognized from their childhood. The look of someone expecting punishment for crimes they never chose. A shadow detached itself from the shipping containers, one of Keene's flankers trying to circle behind, weapon raised and ready. Luca appeared like death itself, elegant and efficient, moving through the rain without disturbing its pattern. One precise strike to the throat dropped the man without a sound, his body folding to the ground like discarded clothing. Poor brother, Mateo's voice carried across the yard, dripping with false sympathy. It echoed between the containers, making it difficult to pinpoint his location. Still fighting other people's battles, still trying to be father's good soldier, always so dutiful, so predictable in your righteousness. You killed him twice, Luca replied, voice soft but carrying through the downpour with unnatural clarity. Once with the brake line, again with this betrayal. He gave you everything, and you couldn't wait for your share. Amara reached Jaden, fingers already working the hairpin into his handcuffs. The metal was slick with rain, but muscle memory guided her through the mechanism, feeling for the catch points she'd practiced hundreds of times during sleepless nights. Her brother's skin was ice cold beneath her touch, his pulse racing wildly beneath her fingertips. The cuffs clicked open just as another burst of gunfire lit up the night, illuminating his bruised face in flashes of orange and white. 4, she whispered, pressing the preloaded phone into Jaden's trembling hands, curling his fingers around it when he seemed too shocked to grip it himself. Run to Rafe, northwest corner. Don't stop. Don't look back, not for anything. How touching! Keene's voice cut through the chaos as Jaden disappeared into the darkness, his footsteps splashing through puddles. The maid playing hero? You could have made this so much easier, Ms. Cole. All we needed was your testimony against Luca. Mateo's been helping us build the RICO case for months. Such a waste of potential, choosing loyalty to a monster. You mean helping you fabricate evidence? Amara called back, activating the body camera app she'd installed hours ago while balancing on a hotel chair, sweat beading on her forehead as she'd soldered microscopic connections. The feed uploaded instantly to both a secure cloud server and a burner account accessible to Luca's lawyer. Like you fabricated charges against my brother, like you planted drugs in his locker and threatened him with 20 years unless he helped you. Rain streamed down her face as she adjusted the camera angle, blinking away droplets clinging to her eyelashes, making sure it captured Keene's next words clearly. Her heart pounded against her ribs as she positioned herself, knowing these moments would determine whether they walked away or died in this forgotten corner of the dockyard. Sometimes we have to manufacture opportunity to catch bigger fish, Keene said, her silhouette visible now against a distant security light. Mateo understood that. He was willing to sacrifice his brother for the greater good. Family dynasties fall when brothers turn on each other, tale as old as time. A harsh laugh cut through the darkness, echoing off metal containers. Greater good? Mateo's voice dripped contempt, amplified by the rain-soaked air. I helped you because watching Luca fall would be better than inheriting his empire. Father always did love him more. But since we're all being honest now, His hand moved toward his jacket pocket, a motion Amara recognized from countless training videos during her military days. She knew immediately he was reaching for a dead man's switch, the kind that detonates when released. But something in the air felt wrong. The same interference pattern she'd noticed earlier when her earpiece crackled with static bursts. The telltale sign of signal jamming. "The signal's corrupted!" she shouted, already moving toward Luca, feet splashing through puddles. Keen's team introduced RF interference. The detonator won't respond to the trigger. It might misfire or... Matteo's thumb pressed down. Nothing happened. The night remained unchanged, except for the constant drumming of rain and distant thunder. In the half-second of his confusion, Luca struck. The brothers collided in a blur of motion, water spraying from their clothes as they grappled. But where Matteo fought with desperate fury, all flailing limbs and wild punches, Luca moved with cold precision, each strike calculated and devastating. The detonator skittered across wet concrete as Matteo stumbled backward, blood streaming from his nose and mixing with rainwater. Right onto one of his own pressure plates. The click was barely audible over the rain, but its effect was immediate. Matteo went very still, understanding dawning in his eyes like a terrible sunrise. Luca stood just out of reach, watching his brother with an expression that contained multitudes. Rage, sorrow, disappointment, and something like pity. "Brother," Matteo whispered, voice suddenly childlike with fear. "Please." Luca's face showed nothing but grief as he stepped back, letting the rain fall between them, creating a curtain between past and future. His shoulders carried the weight of family history, of obligations and betrayals stretching back generations. Shouts erupted from Keen's position as her own agents surrounded her, weapons drawn and aimed at their commander. The live stream had done its work. Her attempted corruption of federal authority had been broadcast live to multiple secure servers, including those monitored by Internal Affairs. Her face contorted with disbelief as her own team read her rights. There would be no escaping the evidence, no convenient deletion of files, no witness intimidation. Through the chaos, Amara heard Jaden's muffled sobs as Rafe pulled him to safety, shielding him with his broad back while speaking calming words into his ear. Emergency vehicles approached in the distance, their sirens mixing with the steady drum of rain, red and blue lights, reflecting off puddles and metal surfaces like an otherworldly dance. Luca crossed the space between them in measured steps, hands open at his sides in a gesture of rare vulnerability. Water ran in rivulets down his face, tracing the sharp angles of his cheekbones, but his eyes never left hers. They burned with an intensity that made the night around them seem darker by comparison. "You warned me once," he said, voice raw with emotion that few would ever hear from him. "Now hear me. You're mine as long as you want to be. Not a second longer. Always your choice." Amara lifted her chin, rain streaming down her neck and soaking the collar of her shirt. Her eyes held his without wavering, a silent negotiation of power that had defined them from the beginning. "Say please." Something soft flickered in his expression, vulnerability few ever saw, a momentary glimpse behind the armor he'd worn since childhood. "Please." She stepped into his arms as floodlights burst to life around the yard, cutting through the pre-dawn gloom with harsh white brilliance. His heartbeat was steady against her cheek, a rhythm stronger than gunfire or thunder, a promise more binding than any oath. They held each other as the sky began to lighten, neither speaking, both understanding that some choices transcend words, some bonds defy explanation. Around them, the world shifted into a new configuration, justice and consequence unfolding in equal measure as the rain began to slow, giving way to the first tentative glimpses of morning light breaking through clouds. Manhattan eased into spring like a cat stretching in sunlight. Cherry blossoms dusted Central Park in pink while construction crews repaired the last of the hotel's glass canopy. Morning traffic hummed below the penthouse windows where Amara stood reviewing court notices spread across Luca's desk like a careful deck of cards. The top document bore Assistant U.S. Attorney Dana Keen's indictment for corruption and conspiracy. 12 counts, no bail. Beneath it lay papers documenting Matteo's dismantled network, key lieutenants turning state's evidence, offshore accounts frozen, and his remaining loyal soldiers either jailed or scattered to the winds. Most critical were the negotiation terms Luca had crafted to reshape the Vitale empire. Each page outlined strict new codes. No human trafficking, no police payoffs, no civilian targeting. The provisions protected neighborhood businesses while pruning away decades of rot. A separate stack of files, evidence of public corruption reaching into City Hall, had been delivered to a special prosecutor with careful provisions ensuring Amara and Jaden remained insulated from any blowback. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows as Amara gathered her things for the morning drive to the community center. The renovated building in Queens now housed their security and forensics training program, funded through a legitimate Vitale foundation. The sound of Luca's shower running made her smile. Some routines had become sweetly familiar over the past 2 months. At the center, Jaden's classroom buzzed with teenage energy as students hunched over circuit boards, soldering irons casting tiny blue flames. He moved between workstations, pointing out proper techniques with the patience he'd always possessed but never recognized in himself. "See how the solder flows when you get the temperature just right," he demonstrated for a young girl with bright eyes. "That's what we call a cold joint. You want it smooth like mercury." Down the hall, Amara's self-defense class practiced situational awareness drills. 20 girls moved in formation, learning to track exits and identify warning signs. Their faces glowed with newfound confidence as they mastered each technique. "Remember, your strongest weapon is right here," Amara tapped her temple. "Awareness before action. Always have 3 escape routes planned." The afternoon sun slanted through high windows as she demonstrated a wrist break, the same move that had once saved her in a desert medical tent. But these girls wouldn't learn that story. They were writing their own. Wednesday evenings meant dinner at Sophia's, a small trattoria where the owner knew to keep the corner table ready. Luca always sat facing the door, old habits dying hard. They shared plates of handmade pasta while discussing the day's developments in low voices. Sunday mornings found them running along the East River, matching stride for stride as dawn painted the water gold. Sometimes they raced to the bridge and back, Amara usually winning because Luca liked watching her victory smile. At precisely 10 a.m. each day, Rafe called to review security protocols. Amara still suggested better convoy routes just to hear him sigh, though they both knew her strategies were sound. The former antagonism had evolved into a professional respect neither would openly acknowledge. The past weeks had built these routines like bridges between their worlds. Luca attended community center graduations in perfectly tailored suits, presenting certificates with grave courtesy. Amara joined strategic meetings, her tactical insights now essential to operations planning. They moved through each other's spaces with growing ease. Yet some habits remained unchanged. Luca still checked sightlines automatically. Amara still mapped exits in new locations. And both kept phones within reach. The danger hadn't vanished. They'd simply learned to dance with it together. Today, the penthouse rooftop garden bloomed with white roses and tiny lights. A handful of witnesses gathered as sunset painted the sky in amber and rose. Rafe stood as best man, looking almost approving. Jaden walked Amara down the aisle, created between potted trees, both of them trying not to cry. Luca waited beneath an arch of flowers, his usual severity softened into something like wonder. When he took Amara's hands, his fingers trembled slightly, a tell only she would notice. The ring he placed on her finger caught the fading light. Inside the band, 3 words were engraved. Live, loudly. A private reminder of every boundary challenged and choice made freely. "I will never cage you," Luca vowed, voice rough with emotion. "I will build the world where you choose me." Amara's smile held years of hard-won trust. "Then don't get in the car without me." His laugh transformed his face, erasing years of careful control. As string lights twinkled to life in the growing dusk, they swayed barefoot to quiet music. The city spread below them like a carpet of stars, familiar and strange at once. Amara's phone buzzed against the table where she'd set her bouquet. The screen showed a photo from Jaden, their afternoon class holding up a hand-painted banner reading, "Thank you, Ms. Cole." She turned the phone face down, looked up at Luca, and rose on tiptoe to kiss him as the city's evening symphony swelled around them. Car horns, distant sirens, the eternal pulse of Manhattan transformed into a love song.